Welcome to everybody. We're here today for the satellite Ocean Decade Satellite Activity EU Marine Data Services for the All-Atlantic and Global Ocean Data Spaces, where we are going to tell you more about the services and benefits offered by the European Union Marine Data Services, Copernicus Marine, and EMODnet. My name is Konstantinou. I am working for the European Commission for the Directorate General of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. I work closely in the management of the European Marine Observation and Data Network, EMODnet. I'm in close collaboration with the colleagues in the Directorate General for Defense, where Copernicus Marine Services are managed. And I'm here to chair this event today. This satellite activity is organized by EMODnet and Copernicus Marine Service with the support of the European Commission in the framework of the All-Atlantic Cooperation for Ocean Research and Innovation, the AANCHOR project. And it is an event which aims to include presentations by our data services, to present concrete cases from the diverse user community, and to have an interactive panel on achieving the All-Atlantic Data Enterprise for 2030. I welcome you all to these discussions today that I hope that are going to be very interesting and hopefully are going to have a lot of input also from you through our sessions on questions and answers. I would like to give you some information for the Q&A sessions. We're going to work with Slido. You have the QR code, but also the link where you can follow with the code, the hashtag code that you can use. You can write your questions. Please add your name in the questions if you'd like. If you'd like to be anonymous, you can remain anonymous. You can upvote the questions that you would like to be prioritized. Please note that we will answer questions only during the Q&A sessions. And if we don't have time to answer all the questions and answers, we will provide input later through a report. Thank you very much for your participation. We are inviting your questions. The event is also live streamed on the Copernicus Marine YouTube channel. You can find it there live and also the recording later. And with that, can we go to the next slide? I will invite my good colleague Nicolas Segebarth from the Directorate General for Research and Innovation to give the opening address.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few opening words today, which I do in my capacity as one of the policy officers in the European Commission in DG Research and Innovation in charge of the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, because indeed it is under this umbrella that this webinar is being organized. The All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance has initiated a number of joint actions which have for objective to further strengthen and structure the scientific cooperation across the Atlantic. One of these joint actions is the All-Atlantic Data Enterprise 2030, which I think you will hear more about from Olga Sato in a couple of minutes. And this joint action has for objective to create a one-stop, user-friendly transatlantic platform to gather and provide access to ocean data. So of course, there are already a number of existing initiatives which are currently working towards this wider objective of creating an open ocean data ecosystem. And I'm thinking of IOD, the ocean best practices, and number of actions under the ocean decades. And it will be necessary to collaborate with those. But yet there are considerable hurdles to make it a working reality. And I am personally convinced that to approach this issue of open data, to do it at regional level with some key actors and data providers, to work it maybe through use cases is a very pragmatic way forward. So this webinar is a first step in that direction. First learn from each other. So there have been at least, I think, a couple of other webinars, or one certainly. So to learn from each other, learn what is currently existing in the different countries, what kind of services they propose, and then to come around the table to work on concrete plans to deliver an open data ecosystem for the Atlantic. And this open data ecosystem is particularly important now with the increased interest that the digital twins of the ocean have, an interest which some of you might also know has mine interest. So with this, I will let the floor to you, I think to Olga Sato. But first, let me thank very much the organizers of the webinar, so the Copernicus Marine Service and EMODnet, which have worked hard to do it. And of course, to those in the joint action who made this happen. So thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, Nicolas. Olga, the floor is yours.
Hello to all. I would like to share my screen. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon. It's a great honor for me to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity for me to talk a little bit about our joint actions. I represent the AANCHOR project, and as part of the Common Standards for Information and Data Sharing Working Group, and we are proposing to build this All-Atlantic Ocean Data Enterprise 2030, which is, as Nicolas just said, it's some way that we can get joined together as a big community in our planet to get this data moving on. So as I mentioned, my name is Olga Sato. I'm a professor in physical oceanography at the University of São Paulo, from Brazil. And I have to thank some of the colleagues that are helping us to get there. So just quickly, our All-Atlantic Ocean Data Space, it's, as Nicolas said, we are not trying to reinvent anything. We are trying to get the synergy of all the initiatives that we already have in place, and so that we can get a federation of all scientific data infrastructures and services that we have around, and make them together to deliver ocean data and products that can be helpful, not only for scientists, but for diverse needs and backgrounds, all in the spirit of open science and open data, and following the fair and care principles. So we are not going to build something from scratch. We are getting in the shoulders of the big ones that are already working so hard to get this data delivered to the public. So we are working on the synergies of the existing initiatives so that we can promote efficient cooperation, maximizing the impact. And we are trying to get everybody involved. So we already have contributions from many countries, institutions from many countries. And of course, we wanted to get more people involved. And who else will be involved in this initiative? Basically, we get the academia and the research centers already providing us the huge amount of data that we have been collecting for many decades. But then we wanted to make this information useful for everybody, industries, public sectors, government, policymakers, non-governmental organizations, human health. So we wanted to make this information to be reached by a large community. So this is basically my message for today. I wish you that this webinar will be very fruitful. We're going to get to know each other and get to where we wanted to be in 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olga. And with this, I would like to pass the floor to Laurence from Copernicus Marine Service and Kate Larkin from EMODnet in order to give us the service overview and key takeaways for Copernicus Marine and EMODnet.
Thank you very much, Zoe. So if I may, I'm going to start with an overview of the Copernicus Marine Service, and then I will leave the floor to Kate Larkin for an overview of the EMODnet service. So if you can go to the next slide. So my name is Laurence Crosnier. I'm working at Mercator Océan International in France, in Toulouse. And we are implementing the Copernicus Marine Service. So the Copernicus Marine Service is part of the Copernicus program, which is led by the European Commission, by the Directorate Defense and Space under the governance of the European member states. And it has three components: the space component, where ESA and EUMETSAT are involved and are dealing with launching and operating satellites such as the Sentinels. There is an in-situ component, which is coordinated by the European Environment Agencies, and also a service component where you can find 6 services, including the Atmospheres Copernicus service, the Marine Copernicus service, which is implemented by Mercator Ocean, which I'm going to describe after this, the Land Copernicus service, the Climate Copernicus service, and the emergency and security services. So if you can, next slide, please. So now I'm going to only focus on the Copernicus Marine Service, which you can find at the marine.copernicus.eu website. We have a single website with an online catalog, which is providing with data, ocean data, with an open and free data policy, and all this data is being scientifically qualified. We have more than 40,000 registered users, and we have more than 450,000 single visits per year on our website. So if you can go to the next slide, you can see here that the data we are providing is being used in Europe, but also all over the world. For example, during the 5 years from 2015 up to 2020, we have a huge uptake in Europe, but the evolution was also great in Africa, in Asia, and in North and South America. Next slide, please. But if you look at the absolute values, you can really see that our main users, more than 50% of our users are in Europe, but we also have more and more users in Asia and again in North and South America. Next slide. So we, along with the data, we provide with strong user support. So if you would like to use the data, our user support is available through a chatbot or through the email, which you can find here on this slide. Our user support is answering all your questions. It provides you information on the problems, on the new release. The website is also available in 9 languages. So it's not only English, but you can find some French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, German, Dutch, Polish, Romanian, and Bulgarian. Of course, all the information is not translated yet, but some of it is translated. We also have online tutorials, help center, we have use cases online, and we also provide with free regular training workshops and hackathons. Next slide. So the data we provide is covering the blue ocean, meaning the hydrodynamic of the ocean, the green ocean, meaning the biogeochemistry, and also the white ocean, meaning that we provide with sea ice data over the Arctic and the Antarctic areas. Next slide, please. The data we have is coming from 3 data sources. We have data from ocean models, from in-situ platforms, and we are going to talk much more about this today. And we also have data from satellites. And the data we have is covering, is provided in real time, and it is covering the past for the last 25 years, the present time, but it is also providing, thanks to the ocean model, with ocean forecast for the next 10 days. And the geographical coverage of the data that we provide is covering all the European seas, including the Arctic, the Baltic Sea, the Northwest Shelf areas, the Southwest Shelf areas, the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea, but it also includes the global ocean. And this is why we have so many users outside of Europe who are interested in the global ocean. Next slide, please. So some more detail about the data that we have. We have data about the temperature and the salinity of the ocean. We have data about the ocean currents, about the waves, about the sea surface elevation, about the surface winds, the sea ice again in the Arctic, in the Baltic, and in the Antarctic, and in all the area which are covered by the ice. We have data from primary production, from transparency, turbidity, and reflectances, about the dissolved oxygen, about the low and mid trophic level, and the carbonate system. So for example, we have the acidity of the ocean and its trends since the last 15 years. And we also have nutrients, including nitrates, for example. Next slide. So along with data, we also provide with information. So we are releasing a report, which is the Ocean State Report every year, which is providing with a synthesis of what is happening in the ocean and the trends that we can see about the ocean climate. So we can see how the sea level has been rising and how it has been accelerating actually since the last couple of years, with the sea level with 3.3 millimeter per year for the global ocean since 1993. But we are also following the trends of the ocean heat content and the sea surface temperature. And all those trends are provided online, but are also provided in the report, which is available online, which is the Ocean State Report. Next slide. So we are also developing tools in order to reach out to citizens and to students and to a more general public. And we have recently developed a web section that we call the Ocean Explainers, which are very nice web section in order to learn about why the ocean is important, what is operational oceanography, how the ocean is being monitored, what is ocean acidification. Very simple questions with very simple answers, which are really dedicated for schools and students and anyone who want to learn about the ocean. So I invite you to go to our website and discover those new web pages. Next slide. So all the data that we provide is being used, as I was saying, by more than 40,000 users which are registered to our service. And those users, they are developing application. They are either coming from the private sector or for the public sector. And they are developing application within many sectors, like the natural resources and energy sector, the coastal monitoring sector, the marine navigation sector, and so on. So we have really users coming from very different background and using the data for a very different application. Next slide, please. So this is one example actually of how the data has been used. So it is the ELNEC, which is a Portuguese national laboratory for civil engineering, which is based in Lisboa in Portugal, which has developed an early warning system in the Azores. This system is being called Hydralerta, and it has been successfully tested in a port within one of the Azores Islands. And the system is assessing and predicting the risks for coastal overtopping and the consequent flooding and the risk for vessel navigation in the harbor. And this system, which is called Hydralerta, is using very high resolution numerical model and neural networks. And it is using the Copernicus Marine Wave product in order to be operational. So this is one of the example of the many applications which are using the Copernicus Marine Service data. And today we are going to hear, we are going to have more example of how the Copernicus Marine data is being used. Next slide, please. I think it was my last slide. So thank you, and do not hesitate to go to the marine.copernicus.eu website, and our user support is going to be very happy to answer your question. Thank you, and I leave the floor to Kate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurence. So Kate Larkin for EMODnet. Kate, are you ready?
Yes, I believe I just need the screen sharing to be enabled. I will try now.
Kate? Kate?
Hello, yes.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I switch the slides for you. Is that okay for you? Or you want to share your screen?
That's fine. It will run a video halfway through, so that's fine.
Okay, so I stop sharing my screen and I let you share your screen.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm delighted to be joining you all online today from the coastal town of Ostend in Belgium, where the sun is out and it's a very active port area here. So it's a great place to be speaking to you from. And I'm delighted to introduce the European Marine Observation and Data Network, EMODnet, which is a complementary service to Copernicus. So a couple of words on EMODnet. What is it? It's a public and free European marine data service, but it's open to all. It's a marine knowledge initiative funded by the European Commission, specifically the Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries through the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund. Over the last decade and more, EMODnet has built up as a European and regional authority and best practice for marine data. And together with Copernicus Marine Service, EMODnet provides the backbone for the European marine data space, which is becoming even more interoperable and evolving. And that's why we're here today as two services showing the current status, the current offer, and how we're also working with the wider all-Atlantic and global community. So what does EMODnet have to offer? Perhaps just to explain the complementarity with Copernicus. So EMODnet focuses on in situ data. So this is data that's been collected in water via sensors and samplers that sit in the water. And with EMODnet, data are collected from operational, but also more delayed mode, research-driven or other data collection efforts from across the European community and increasingly globally as well. And the data that are collected are spanning 7 quite broad parameters, thematic areas, sorry, which will include the deep sea floor, the deeper water column as well, and some integrated thematic areas such as seabed habitats that rely upon many different parameters and thematic areas to be brought together. So this is the sort of integrated consolidated data that EMODnet offers, and it also includes some data products together with metadata to describe and to aid the searching and the discovery. So over a decade, EMODnet has moved from a regional effort, a relatively small research-driven community, to a fully operational, mature and user-driven distributed infrastructure. And this has been made possible by the very large community of in situ marine data experts that work in EMODnet. You'll hear from a few of them later today. Others are probably online. And there's over 100 partner organizations and, of course, the much wider community through the European Ocean Observing System, the ocean observing efforts, both from the public and private sector. And particularly for this UN Ocean Decade event, I wanted to just show you a little piece of a video if it will let me, which really highlights both the open and free marine data, information and knowledge for the transparent and accessible ocean, but also how this knowledge can be used to bridge the science policy interface to really underpin and provide the knowledge that is used for marine and maritime policy.
Healthy and resilient marine ecosystems ensure humanity's future. Protecting our seas and oceans and using their resources sustainably is at the heart of the European Union's integrated maritime policy.
Maritime policy looks at the interconnectedness of the different activities. It's important to reconcile the different users and to make it possible to encourage multi-use, for example, and coherence in maritime uses. It is important that these activities do not harm the environment.
Europe's Marine Strategy Framework Directive is the environmental pillar of our maritime policy. It requires EU member states to assess, monitor and restore the health of our marine environment.
MSFD is crucial for marine management as it provides a framework for assessing ecosystem health in a growing blue economy. Member states have to monitor indicators of good environmental status, both related to the seafloor as well as the water column, and in relation to natural processes as well as human-induced pressures.
To monitor the health of our marine environment, we need access to accurate data and information to understand its current status and how this will change in response to climate change and human activities.
In order to manage anything, you really need to be able to understand it. And in order to understand something, you really need data. So data is really important in order to understand what's going on in the ocean and what is our impact on the ocean.
But where can environmental managers and policymakers find the data they need? EMODnet, the European Marine Observation and Data Network, provides a global gateway to marine data and data products. EMODnet has more than 100 partners working together across Europe to collate marine data, process the data according to international standards, and to make these harmonized data and data products freely available via EMODnet's central portal.
There are plenty, if I could say, of policies that EMODnet could support. There's support for the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, also maritime special planning, and all of these are linked to our future in terms of biodiversity, in terms of renewable energy, in terms of food from the ocean.
It's also important, if you look at marine protected areas, for example, to have them coherent in a good way.
All EMODnet chemistry data and products are particularly useful for the marine strategy. A striking example is the pan-European database system for marine data. This is really a groundbreaking product, the first of its kind in Europe and globally.
Since 2017, EMODnet chemistry has fast become the point of reference for the management of marine litter data in the context of implementing the EU Marine Strategy Framework Directive.
Coordinated and harmonized data collection of data from imagery is what EMODnet offers. This is the best adapted approach to support a coordinated monitoring of seafloor litter.
Marine knowledge as collected and presented by EMODnet can play an important role to shape policy decisions and to prepare policy decisions in an integrated maritime policy that is interconnected.
And
so I hope that gave you a flavour of the types of knowledge that EMODnet is producing that can be used for marine and maritime policy. And I would just like to finish flicking through some slides of the different partnerships that EMODnet has that also make it possible to create the interoperable European marine data space. So you can see on the screen a number of institutes. There's also a lot of partnerships in the All Atlantic Ocean data space regarding projects, initiatives and more. And in the global ocean data space as well, in terms of bringing regional ocean best practice and also listening and learning from other regional initiatives. So I'll just finish with that and note that there will be a demonstration now from my colleague Conor Delaney, the technical coordinator of EMODnet, who will explain how EMODnet is working towards a fully centralized service, consolidating efforts by the end of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. I don't have to introduce Conor anymore. So I think we can pass to the next part of our demonstrations of our EU Marine Data Services, starting with EMODnet. Conor, are you ready?
Yes, can I share my screen? Because I don't know if Mercator have my latest version of the slides. Let me just do that. Okay, so you're seeing my screen?
Yes, we do, Conor. Pardon?
You do, okay.
Yes, we do.
So I'm not actually giving a demo of EMODnet. What I want to do is, because EMODnet is going through a major technical upgrade and partial digital transformation, I'm going to give a high level technical sort of overview without going into too much detail for users who are here, so that they can better navigate the EMODnet services. We have a lot of online tutorials and videos available, and the very last slide will be the link to those. And hopefully what I'm showing here will help you get the best out of those videos when you're using EMODnet. So as Kate touched upon, EMODnet is made up of a number of different services. The breadth of knowledge that is in marine knowledge that is in EMODnet has meant that up to now, EMODnet has existed as 7 separate portals and 1 central portal. The separate portals representing different thematic expertise where data is collected and turned into products. These products are made available through the central portal. And each of these portals exist as separate entities, but all share in common a map viewer and a metadata catalog and data catalog. So you would expect the same or similar services through each. We tie all this together by following best practices for spatial data infrastructure, which is effectively what EMODnet is. We follow as best we can INSPIRE standards, particularly for web services. We follow principles of FAIR. Our data products are open licenses. We use the CC4 by 4.0. Those data products are made up of aggregated, harmonized, multi-parameter data sets. We have searchable metadata. So if you go to the central portal, for example, you use our metadata catalog to search for data products. If you go to some of the other portals, you will be looking for data. Now, this is quite an important distinction here. I'm using bathymetry as an example. Bathymetry produces a digital terrain model for Europe. For the bathymetry, they're a bathymetry product. It's an open product. It has an open data license, so you can take that product and do work on it as you will. However, the data that's used to make that product is not necessarily open from every member state. Some member states have a different attitude to seabed data. But our colleagues in the bathymetry thematic area, they have built these products out of data that is both open and restricted. But for you as a user, the product is open. I know it's a bit of a subtle distinction, but it's important to get it to realize that early on. So we also, we have very much focused on providing data and data products by our web services, following the OGC, Open Geospatial Consortium standards, which are very much the ones that are approved and recommended by INSPIRE. So what that means to you as a user, it means that if you go to the EMODnet central portal, which used to be emodnet.eu, but now we're on a formal service of the European Commission. We're on emodnet.ec.europa.eu. But if you just type in emodnet.eu, you'll be redirected straight to the central portal. On the central portal, we have a data discovery and access service based on with a map viewer, which you can go in and look at the products from the different portals. And we also have a catalog service, which you can go in and search through the metadata that's available for each of the products on the catalog. And they will also provide links to the data, either through direct download, or in some cases, you have to log in to access the download data. So all the portals follow the same template. So they may look slightly different, but the template's the same in that there's a map viewer and there's a metadata catalog. So I just have it here with the data, the metadata, the data service, and data products all common to all portals. So we also have on GitHub, we have a section devoted to tutorials on how to access data products and data. And this one GitHub spot is for all of web services documentation for all of EMODnet. It's not just the central portal. So if you go there, you'll find the information collected from all the different web portals there. And I encourage you to have a look through that. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. So we are, as I mentioned, going through an evolution at the moment. We are in a stage where we're centralizing all the portals to the central portal. This means that the central portal will have a map viewer representing all the portals. It will have all the data products on the map viewer. The central data catalog or central portal catalog will have all the metadata for data and data products. The portals will all be shut down. So there will be just one EMODnet central portal. The web services that some of you are using at the moment, they'll all stay the same because the expertise, the subject matter expertise rests with these thematic groups, and they could continue to generate products, collect data to generate those products and publish them in services that we will consume and advertise through the central portal. The reason why we're doing this is to make it easier for the user, as simply as that. We are doing big steps to dramatically improve services to the user. We have like a new map viewer, new GeoNetwork, but new way of serving data too. So I'll just give you a few slight previews on this. One of the things that we've started doing is in the map viewer itself has been greatly improved and through new tools, which you can see here, and better ways of presenting the data. Now, the map viewer won't be launched till the autumn, but it's in test at the moment. But also in the map viewer, this is what you see on the left is the human activities, vessel activity data. But on the right here, you can see the bathymetry product, which is within the same map viewer, but we've also imported tools that bathymetry have. So if you go to the bathymetry portal at the moment, you can draw a line across their maps and you will get the profile of the depth for that area. But that tool is being imported as well into the new central portal. So the tools that people have been using on the thematic portals are coming over to the central portal as well. So we've also started consolidating some of the data products. Here we have on the left-hand side, if you go to the bathymetry portal at the moment, they make the DTMs available, I think it's 64 different tiles. So if you want something that has a piece of bathymetry that stretches across tiles, you have to download 2 separate tiles and merge them yourself. As part of centralization, we have merged all those tiles into one continuous tile, which you will be able to either download directly and as a whole complete bathymetry for Europe, or consume the web services as people do now by integrating bathymetry web services into their workflows. That's not going to change, it's going to be still the same. Or on the map viewer, you'll be able to go to the map viewer and draw a box on the map and get the bathymetry for what's inside the box. Once again, we're looking at trying to make providing multiple ways for users to access data and data products, because we recognize that there are different types of users. So maybe, for example, you have people who are coming from a geospatial world or GIS users. They're more involved in a higher level analysis. They just want geospatial products. But then you may have also data science users who want to get as close to the raw file formats as possible, and their file formats are going to be particular to their area. Usually it's like CSV or something. This is what we want to service those users as well. So coming to the end here, we have numerous amount of tutorials and videos available to people to go and use on the YouTube. Plus, each of the portals offer help desks and advice. Plus, you can go to the central portal and contact us directly through there and go through our help system. So hopefully this will help you make the most of what resources we have available in EMODnet. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Conor. And now I would like to invite Fabrice Messal from Copernicus Marine Service to give us the demonstration. Hi, Fabrice.
Yes. Hi, sorry. Hello, everyone. Can I share my screen, please? Yes. So it's very challenging for me to introduce you the Copernicus Marine Service and make this online demonstration in only 5 minutes. So let's go. I will try. So this is the main page of the Copernicus Marine Service, and you will see there is different section. The most important, if you are a beginner on this website, is a user corner, where you can find a lot of information with the help center, e-learning material where you can find Jupyter notebooks, GIS, a tutorial, etc., to learn how to use the data. So it's very important to have access to this content. Then if you want to go straight to the point and see the products, you can click here directly. You are redirect on the catalog of data. Here you can filter the data by parameter or by domain, global domain, for example. And if you click on each product detail page, you will have access to a short overview of the products or with all the documentation associated to the product, with the product user manual, the quality information document, and the different protocol of access for these products with the OpenDAP, the FTP, WMS, okay, and for each dataset. If you don't know how to use this kind of API or protocol, you have just to click on the chatbot here, and simply you click API. Okay, and you will have access to all the documentation related to this information to let you exploit all the data. Okay, back to the home page. So these 4 blocks are the main part of the website. So you have the catalog of products, you have the ocean state report and the ocean monitoring, but Laurence has already told you about these parts. So in the time I left, I would like to briefly introduce the visualization tool. If I click here, you will see we have 3 kind of tools dedicated to a different kind of audience, from beginner to expert. Let's dive in the MyOcean Pro. So this is our main user visualization tool, where you can find a part of the catalog. All the products are here available. You can dive into the catalog. You can filter the products by area of interest, by community, by variables. You can choose your product, and then you can add directly on the layer. Let's try to add another layer, for example, mass concentration of chlorophyll on the global ocean. Yes, as you can see, I have 2 layers now. I can play with the different layers, play with the transparency. I can play also with the boundary of the color map. I have some features here on the right, on the bottom right of the screen to play with the data, or to have information directly by clicking on the map. Okay, there is a timeline at the bottom of the screen. You can choose the time you want, if you want to make an extract of the data, or just check if the data is available for your period of research. And then you want perhaps to download directly the data. So you have to click here. Okay, first you have to log in. And then you can define directly on the map the geographic area you want to download by clicking here. Then you select, oh, sorry, define area, okay. And automatically you see the boundaries appears on the geographical area part. Then you have to define the range, for example, 1st January to the 1st day of March. Okay, the depth level. So let's choose just the first level. And then I can choose to download the data or to have access to the API request, which is a subset API request you can use directly on your Python script or your GIS tool. Okay. I ran this demonstration in 5 minutes, no?
That was really fast and efficient. Thank you, Fabrice. We are running a little bit behind, but we are going to take 2 questions now. The rest of the questions are going to be answered in the post-event report. We have a question about the data available via Copernicus, the in-situ data available via Copernicus and via EMODnet, and if they are the same or different, or they are lying in part. Laurence, Kate, would you like to give us your insight on this?
Sure. So as I was saying, the Copernicus Marine Service data is providing with data from 3 sources, from in situ, from satellite, and from ocean models. And the in situ data, which is providing within the Copernicus Marine Service, is the same as the one which is providing through the EMODnet services. And the data is flowing from one service to the other one. And for example, in the Copernicus Marine Service, we are using this in situ data in order to feed the ocean models, in order to do data assimilation. So the ocean models that we are running or applying some data constraints to the output of the ocean model using data assimilation of the in situ and of the satellite data, so that the ocean model really stay close to the ocean truth. So we are really using this in situ data in order to have better forecast, ocean model forecast of the ocean. There is some of the model outputs which are also feeding the EMODnet service, but maybe I'll let Kate take over on this.
Thanks, Laurence. Yes, indeed, there's many kind of operational and coordination level collaborations going on, and the data flow, as Laurence has mentioned, is bidirectional. So in terms of EMODnet, in some of the thematics that I introduced, such as the seabed habitats, that is integrating a lot of different data layers and parameters. And it also brings in Copernicus modeled outputs of near bottom currents that are then used for defining the seabed habitats. So this is another way that Copernicus outputs are brought into EMODnet.
Thank you very much, Kate. And our second question is related to the data that we have on contaminants and hazardous material substances. Kate, I think this is also for you.
Yes, so there's a thematic with a large network of experts working on EMODnet chemistry, and that covers the marine litter that you heard about, but also contaminants. I will put the link in the chat shortly. But this covers 80,000 data sets over a number of different parameters, and they range from antifoulants to hydrocarbons and heavy metals and more. So I'll put the link in the chat and you can discover what there is.
Thank you very much. And without delay, we're going to the second part of this webinar that is about data sharing and use. Regarding the EMODnet, the Copernicus Marine Service use cases, the data sharing and testimonials from the Atlantic Ocean Basin, Brazil, South Africa, USA, Canada, and Europe. And I would like to welcome Guilherme Franz from the Universidade Federal do Parana to give his input.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I will share my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yes. Put in presentation mode. Okay, all good. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank EMODnet and Copernicus Marine Service for the invitation to talk here about Brazilian Sea Observatory, or BSO, that is a prototype of a coastal monitoring service, which was initially supported by the Copernicus Marine Service through the user uptake program. And it includes an operational modeling system for the Brazilian coast and a web GIS platform aiming to integrate forecast results from different spatial scales, in situ measurements, satellite data, vessel positions, and an on-demand tool to predict the drift of oil spills. So BSO is a use case of Copernicus Marine Service and is available in the website. It is coordinated by a Brazilian university in collaboration with a research group in Portugal and a private company, a Brazilian private company. The operational modeling system of BSO follows a downscanning approach from the Copernicus Marine Service global model, and you have multiple nested domains reaching resolutions of 100 meters inside, storing some stories on the Brazilian coast. So in the future, we want to perform also an upscaling approach by providing the results from the higher resolution models to the coarser resolution models, improving our forecasts and minimizing the discontinuities near the open boundaries. We need data to validate our models, data from satellites or cargo floats and drifting buoys. But near the coast, for the storing models and coastal models, you need local data. For instance, we have a Brazilian coastal observing system called SimCosta, but you have a huge lack of freely available in situ data in Brazil. This is the WebGIS platform where the user can click on a point in this rectangle and choose a date to perform a simulation of oil spills by using the forecast from Copernicus Marine Service and from our operational modeling system and can visualize the different forecasts from the different domains. And the user can also visualize satellite data, products, and in situ data. The WebGIS platform code is available through the GitHub repository. So we want to promote a collaborative development of this platform and also other tools. We organized an event to launch the BSO. We invited people from different universities, research centers, federal and state agencies, private companies such as Petrobras. And as an outcome of this event, a paper was born to present the existing initiatives of coastal ocean observing modeling systems in Brazil and to discuss future perspectives in light of international examples such as Copernicus Marine Service and EMODnet. This paper was published in the journal Frontiers in Marine Science, so you are all invited to have a look in this paper. For the continuity of BSO, we got support from the Brazilian Navy, and we create a new consortium with other institutions, universities, and meteorological centers, for instance. And this consortium will be part of a new project coordinated by the Brazilian Space Agency to develop a detection, forecasting, monitoring system of oil spills at sea, something similar to CleanSeaNet in Europe, operated by the European Maritime Safety Agency, but including modeling. And the clients of these projects are, for instance, federal state agencies and the Brazilian Navy. So thank you for the attention. Here is my email if you want to contact me.
Thank you very much. And I would like now to invite Marco Filippone from FUGRO to speak about a use case from the business sector from EMODnet.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. I'm really glad to be here and provide a short overview of the current FUGRO effort within the in this space, as well as further cooperation moving forward. Next slide, please. So just to, for who is not familiar with FUGRO, FUGRO is a world-leading geospatial company, and some of the activity and beyond as well, those type of applications that mainly are covering the marine environment, as you can see, are related to fishery, aquaculture, ocean energy, port and airborne, energy resource management, offshore wind, submarine cable, and all activity within the space of hydrography. Next slide, please. What I wanted to highlight here is that there are two areas where the private sector can contribute addressing knowledge needs in sustainable ocean governance. And the first one is participating in public-private partnership related to the ocean science. The geodata is being collected at scale of on privately founded development project around the world. Historically, those data have been used to de-risk the project, but they could be also used to improve ocean science. The second opportunity that links indeed to the context of this short presentation is the opportunity for the private sector to participate in citizen science and crowdsourced ocean science contribution. The organization that have the type of geodata platform, and as I did not mention because of the limited time, but we do data gather with all sorts of platform, going from airborne bathymetry to seaborne vessel, as well satellite technology. We collect those data, and we are able to share those data. In particular, we started 5 years ago with supporting Seabed 2030, collecting bathymetry data during transit. And to date, as you can see there, we have collected over 2 million square kilometers of the ocean data during transit. Next slide, please. To do this efficiently, we try to do that in between projects, so not paid projects, and we want to maintain the cost of this operation for gathering crowdsourced bathymetry as low as possible. So if you could start the video that has the image, you click the image, please. You see this is the flow that we are using on board our vessel. We have an automated flow that we don't have anybody on board, or even if we have personnel, we don't need any human interaction on board. The multi-beam or the sensor is automatically collecting the data, and the data are back up on board, transferred to the online cloud, and through dedicated machine learning, artificial intelligence, and dedicated flow, the data is being processed, as well as about every 10 minutes after the processing solution is completed, we have the capability as well as the capacity to stream those real-time bathymetry through dedicated dashboard. In this case, it's just an example of the FUGRO one. And as I said, every 10 minutes, basically we have a refresh. If the bathymetry is available, is uploaded. And if there is other coverage, then is the solution is creating a new grid and is updating the mapping and the charts. The next slide, please. So moving forward, so what we have discussed with EMODnet during the last few years, and we are finally achieving this. This is a roadmap to become associate partner of EMODnet, and we have identified few areas of interest and where we could work together. And starting, as I mentioned, from the contribution of the FUGRO in-transit bathymetry and potentially as well metocean data to the EMODnet bathymetry platform. Also, that links to the point I described before. the first point is collaborating, fostering the dialogue with private sector to sharing client-owned data with a wider sustainable ocean economy perspective that also ledger a Ocean Decade initiative. And as well, that links to the previous the slide about the flow and the automation around collecting bathymetry and streaming this bathymetry through dedicated portal. I'm sure that we can finalize and find synergies, integration between the FUGRO advancing remote autonomous solution, including digital technology, of course, and the well-established processes and best practice that EMODnet is developing to create a fully interoperable and marine data ecosystem. Yeah, I hope I was within the 5 minutes slot. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Marco. We are now going to have a video input by Helen Lillis from JNCC. She's the EMODnet seabed habitats coordinator, and she's going to give us input on a use case for OSPAR Regional Sea Convention in the intermediate assessments of ecological status of the Northeast Atlantic.
I have 5 minutes to give an example of how EMODnet seabed habitats supports the assessment of the status of seabed habitats in the Northeast Atlantic. I'll start by presenting the requirement and then go on to talk about how we helped with the solution. The OSPAR Commission is charged with implementing the agreements of the Oslo-Paris Convention on the protection of the marine environment in the Northeast Atlantic. Periodically, it undergoes an assessment of the status of the marine environment through a series of quality status reports. The next one is due in 2023, and so the contracting parties are hard at work to carry out these assessments. And these are done through a series of indicators because we really can't monitor the entire seafloor. So instead we use indicators of the status. And the one that I'm going to talk about today is BH3, the extent of physical damage to predominant and special habitats. So of course we cannot observe the actual physical damage caused by human activities. So instead we use proxies, we use our ecological knowledge, and we use maps. So here's a very brief overview of how they undertake this assessment. The input data they need is, firstly, they need maps of what is where. That's habitat maps and species point data. Next, they need maps of what human activities are happening which may cause physical damage to the seabed habitats, such as abrasion caused by fishing. And to tie those together, they need a table showing which habitats are sensitive to which human activities and by what amount. By combining these tables with the habitat maps and the species data, they can produce a map showing the sensitivity to various pressures everywhere where we have the habitat and species information. And by overlaying that with the pressure layers, they can produce final outputs showing the likely levels of disturbance caused by human activity to the habitats. And then they can present these in various ways in their reporting. So where does EMODnet come in? For the habitat map, we have the biggest collection of habitat maps in Europe. We aim to be a single point of access for this data. There's two types of maps that I'm going to tell you about that helps us to build the best product for use assessment. The first is EUCMAP. It's a full coverage map for Europe. It's fairly coarse scale and it describes physical habitats predominantly. On top of that, we collect individual maps that have been created as a result of surveys. Here's a zoom in on the coast of France that shows what these maps look like. They're patchy and they vary in detail, but sometimes they provide a higher level of detail describing the communities as well as the physical environment. And by combining these together into a single layer, we can remove the overlaps based on our levels of confidence in the maps, and we fill in the gaps with EUCMAP. We can provide a single layer that acts as the input into the OSPAR assessment. And so here I'm just showing you the latest version of this map that will feed into the 2023 quality status report. In blue, we can see the extent of the more detailed maps from surveys, and then the gaps are filled in elsewhere by EUCMAP. And this is all made possible by the work of EMODnet seabed habitats to not only bring the data together, but also to standardize the formats and the classification systems so that they can be combined in this way. Thank you for listening, and do get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
We thank Helen from Fairway, and we go to our final use case, and I will invite Sergi Perez-Jorge to talk to us about tracking whales in the North Atlantic in a joint Copernicus Marine EMODnet use case from OKEANOS.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Zoe, and thank you, everyone, and thank you to EMODnet and Copernicus for the invitation. And here I would like to just shortly explain how we incorporate like Copernicus data to study the migratory movement of baleen whales in the North Atlantic. And you probably know that, probably previous slide, the whales move across oceans and they travel mainly from feeding to breeding grounds. And one of the key area, and that occurs for many baleen whale species, and one of the key point for this migration is that the distribution of their prey, as their migrations are closely tied to their distribution, and this is highly dynamic in space and time. And we know that recently we have just discovered that they just work based on their memory. Next slide, please. One critical point just to study the distribution of the predators is their prey. Previous studies have mainly used like the physiography, just depth and the distance to coast, or physics, just like the distance to eddies, or even phytoplankton to study their distribution. But we know that the main prey of these predators, for example, for baleen whales is zooplankton, or for dolphins is microplankton. And just to have like a key information about prey, it's critical to understand the distribution, the behavior of these predators, not only for baleen whales, also for tunas and migratory sharks. Next. And we just recently got a new model like that provides that critical part, that is the global zooplankton and microplankton biomass that is available in Copernicus. And this is a model that was developed by Patrick Lihoudi, that previous one, that provides us with information. It's a long-term series that provides us information on these two variables from 1998 to 2000. And it has been improving, like it has been recent upgrades on the product. Before we used to get like weekly data, and the spatial resolution used to be like 0.525 degrees, but it's improving, and now we have like daily resolution, temporal resolution, and 0.29 service. That is very important for our studies. Next slide, please. And why is this important for us? Like, for example, we are based in the middle of the North Atlantic in the Azores. And in this region, there is limited information about the migratory movements of baleen whales between the Azores and the northern latitudes on their summer, on their feeding grounds, summer feeding grounds. And for this, as we cannot cover this huge area, as it's very difficult to sample and also expensive, what we decided in our group was to tag 3 species of whales, of baleen whales, like side whales, like you can see the tracks, the satellite tracks in green, the fin whales, you can see it in orange, and the blue whales, you can see it in blue. And what we did is, based on the information, the positions from these the tracks, we developed species distribution models where we incorporated the model derived prey data from Copernicus. And in this case, that was the zooplankton biomass. Next slide, please. Based on our studies, we could see that the distribution of these species, it moves from March to the end of summer in June, July towards northern latitudes. For example, for fin and blue whales, we could see that they mainly stay around the Azores around March, April, and move towards northern grounds in July and June, July. And they have a huge preference for example, fin whales around outside Greenland and Iceland. And for sei whales, we can see that the main habitat is around the Labrador Sea, and the Azores is not a preferred habitat. But a key point here and related to the presentation of this workshop is the movement of these three species was mainly influenced by the interaction of two main variables. That was the temperature and zooplankton biomass. And we could see that the relationship to these two variables, it was different depending on the species. Next, please. And to conclude, and the main findings of this study is that the integrating telemetry data, as we did with our tracking data, with the spatial-explicit models like the Copernicus from the zooplankton microplankton, it helped us to understand which factors shape the movement patterns of highly migratory species, not only from baleen whales, that also there are current studies on turtles, on sharks as well. Two, that simulated lower trophic level biomass distribution enable us to have a better understanding of the whales and their distribution. Third, that the prey data from trawling and acoustic surveys is still needed to validate current zooplankton and microplankton estimates. They are just based on some balays on some specific regions. And the last one is that this approach, these distribution models, can serve as a tool to guide conservation management decisions. As we know, most of these highly migratory species, they are facing an increasing number of threats, and we can see here in the pictures. Thank you very much, and if you want more information, you can contact us, and this is a current. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we have two questions for our speakers. I will start with Marco. Our users asking if the bathymetry collected by FUGRO will be available. Marco, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
I was struggling with the microphone.
I understand.
Yes, absolutely. So the bathymetry collected by FUGRO is already available through other channel because, as I explained, we are working towards a roadmap with EMODnet bathymetry. As soon as we are finalizing the partnership, we will anyway continue to provide the contribution of this in-transit bathymetry to the current channel that, as per today, are CBET 2030 as well as the NOAA. So as part of the JEPCO community, the bathymetry that I mentioned, the 2 million square kilometers are already available as a publicly available. So moving forward, every time that FUGRO will collect bathymetry, we will deliver this transit data to all the partners that we will have moving forward, so including EMODnet bathymetry then.
Thank you very much, Marco. This is the approach that is necessary. And our second question to Sergi Perez. Do you have papers of your works?
Yeah, I can just place it later on the chat, but yeah, we published the work that just show like on the journal Diversity and Distribution in 2020, and I can share that paper with everyone.
Thank you, Sergi. Thank you very much. And with no further delay, we will pass to our panel discussion. I will introduce the co-chairs of the panel discussion, Antonio Repucci from Mercator Ocean International, and Othman Cherkaoui Dekkaki. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce this correctly, from All Atlantic Ocean, that is an All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador, that they will introduce you, the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. And yes, welcome to the panel discussion under the EU Marine Data Services for All Atlantic and Global Ocean Data Spaces. It's a panel discussion organized by EMODnet and Copernicus Marine Services, with collaboration, of course, with the EU All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, and I'm part of that as an All-Atlantic Youth Ambassador. So I start by introducing myself. I'm an All-Atlantic Youth Ambassador representing my country, Morocco, as part of 26 other ambassadors representing 14 different countries. And I'm also a PhD student in applied mathematics with mainly focus on ocean literacy and data sharing. And I will let my Antonio, I will now give the floor to Antonio.
Thank you, Othman. So good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Antonio Reccucci. I'm the coordinator of observation data at Mercator Ocean and for the Copernicus Marine Service. As such, I'm responsible mainly of the relationship with the major suppliers of Earth observation data, such as the European Space Agency, EUMETSAT, or Eurobus, and I am also following the technical development of our production centers. So, welcome again. It's our pleasure to have with us today representatives from Marine Data Services and the international research community, which will share with us their vision of a future interoperable marine data space. I will start with Sylvie Poliken. Could you please switch on the camera? Which is the coordinator of the Copernicus Marine Service in situ thematic center and program manager of the EuroArgo research infrastructure. We move then to Jose Angel Alvarez Perez from the University of Vale do Itaí in Brazil. And Angel is an oceanographer with the main research interest in deep sea environment and ecology. And I let Othman continue.
We also present to you Sisiona, the head of Hellenic Center of Marine Research in Greece, and also part of the EMODnet in Justin. Thierry Schmidt, also as from the Service Hydrographique de la Marine, the Hydrographic Marine Service in France. And lastly, Anton Ellenbrook, a consultant at Food and Agriculture Organization. We need also, I will take the floor also to say that unfortunately we don't have a representation from the African country due to previous made event for them. And now I will start by asking the first question to Sissy and Anton. So our first question is, how does the marine community currently share data? And Sissy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, for the question and for inviting me in this event and this discussion. Let me say first that today we have a wealth of marine data collected by public and private sector for environmental monitoring, research activities, operational purposes, citizen science initiatives, and many other purposes. In Europe, but also elsewhere, like US or Australia, huge progress has been made the last 2 decades on advancing the marine data management systems and developing standards and best practices that help to make the data interoperable, accessible, and reusable. In other words, to improve the data sharing. Big research infrastructures are in place today, such as SeaDataNet, EMODnet, Copernicus Marine Service, Eurobis, ICS, and many others that aggregate data from several multiple sources and provide open and free access to harmonized, standardized, and of high quality marine data, products, and services that cover many purposes and users' needs. Furthermore, all the above infrastructures are feeding global data systems like those developed within IOC and its IOD program, or those developed by WMO or GEOS. And all these contribute to the global efforts for building interoperability between existing data systems, addressing a global ocean data space, including, of course, the current Atlantic case. However, many data sources are still unreachable. There are several reasons for that. they cannot yet mature enough to be integrated with the existing marine infrastructures and data repositories, or they cannot become yet interoperable, and therefore they cannot be shared with the wider marine community. Also, the data volume and the data variety are continuously increasing. And initiatives such as the European Open Science Cloud that promotes the open web-based data, science and knowledge and the data fairness, of course, or initiative like the Digital Earth will improve the data sharing and will increase the data accessibility and will help us to address major and critical issues related to the ocean and its sustainable management. Finally, I would like to mention that within EMODnet, that as you heard, it's a leading European interoperable infrastructure, the data sharing issue has already been addressed. A data ingestion facility is available in order to assist data providers who are not yet contributed to the European data systems landscape and help them to share their data, explain them the benefits of doing that, and help them to apply the proper data management procedures and become part of the European data management process and data handling. I will stop here my answer, and I am available if there are questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cici. And the same question will go to Anton. How does marine community currently share data?
I'm trying to start my video, but it seems not to be possible. So you have to do it without seeing me. So FAO of the UN, a big UN organization since 70 years now. And I work in the fisheries department and then in the information and communication part of the fisheries and aquaculture department. So I cannot speak for all of FAO, but it's a big organization. So for us, what is especially important is the data that relate to SDG 14, and then for me in particular, SDG 14.4.1, the indicator on fish stocks. So not so much in the biophysical domains, but really we try to help fishermen. And there's 100 million fishermen, and with all your digital twins, I hope you also find a place to give correct attention to safety at sea, and how do we bring these 100 million fishermen into a global economy where they can also benefit from all the resources that the oceans and the inland waters have to offer us. We are also a partner in, for instance, in a Horizon 2020 project where we work a lot on data sharing, and you can find a lot of information already in the Blue Cloud Horizon 2020 portal, where there is a global record of stocks and fisheries, and where we work with University of Washington and a private company to collect and collate a lot of information on stocks and fisheries worldwide. And that include the location of the stocks, but also the exploitation levels and species names, etc. We do that also with a more analytical approach. So we have not only disseminate the information there, but we also work on the analytical capacity. So we have trained over 1,000 people, also thanks to European support through the Blue Cloud project, on the use of stock monitoring tools, and that is in support of stock assessment in countries. For that, we have a lot of information available using RStudio and some R-Shining applications. So thanks to Blue Cloud and the D4Science support, we have developed a lot of resources and technology that are actively used by the FAO community to collect data and to collate information and disseminate it through a global audience. We also have released recently the Global Tuna Atlas, so that's another product that was developed with help from the European Union and the Blue Cloud project. So also that is online, and if you are interested in tuna distributions and tuna fisheries, please have a look at that website. It's a good source and a good example of data harmonization across fisheries organizations, which is not simple because definitions are not the same in all countries of the world. And then if you raise them to a regional level, definitions change and the way that the data are assessed changes. And then bringing them to a global level is even more complicated and complex. So it took a long time and a lot of support from the Commission again. Thanks again to make this Global Tuna Atlas. With Copernicus, we also have two actions in the same project. One is to detect aquaculture cages, for instance, in Tunisia and Morocco, we have done some tests if we can detect cages and link those to the statistics we have collected in FAO about the type of farms and statistics from the country about ownership and size of the cages, etc., to do the validation. A similar approach with artificial intelligence over South Sulawesi, but since that's not in the Atlantic, let me skip that one, but that is used to make classifications of land use in coastal areas and detect agriculture ponds. So we do that not as FAO alone and not only with support from the Commission, but we do it with a lot of partners in the Horizon 2020 project Blue Cloud, and in particular IRD from France and Forth from Crete. But there's of course much more in FAO. We have FAO of course has a lot of information itself. So I want to then mention quickly the hand-in-hand initiative, where we set up specific actions between FAO and countries to improve their data management capacities in the country, especially for geospatial related data. We also have a big e-learning academy. So if you're interested in to learn about the activities of FAO and what FAO does, please visit the e-learning academy of FAO. Millions of documents collected over 8 decades in Agris. If you're interested in fisheries and aquaculture abstracts, then please visit the ASFA website, where we have millions of abstracts available for you to learn about maybe fisheries and aquaculture or aquatic sciences in your own country. We have also a great collaboration with regional fisheries organizations. And then of course we disseminate our statistics, 77 decades of fishery statistics collected across the planet and made available through the FAO website. Okay, thank you. And I hope I was brief enough and yet detailed enough. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sissi and Anton. So now that we have learned a bit about how data are shared, I have a question that is probably more related to the marine data services. So I would like to ask to Sylvie and Thierry, what should be the role of these marine data services in achieving the All Atlantic Data Space 2030? Sylvie, the ground is yours, please.
Yeah, so first, as Sissi was saying, Institute Observing Systems are operated by many institutes all over the world, and therefore they're not so easy to access unless they are organized through networks like in the GOOS or Ocean Coordination Group, or regionally like in EuroGOOS, or in research infrastructure that was also mentioned by Sissi, or thematically like Copernicus, Marine, or EMODnet, or even CDataNet. So in that sense, marine data services are an important component of the All Atlantic data space, as they provide integrated services and products from a wide variety of observing systems, both to end users and scientists. And just as an example, if we take the Copernicus Institute Thematic Center, we are providing access to 7,000 platforms in near real time, nearly 45,000 if we look at the last 50 years, coming from more than 300 institutes. If the users has to do it themselves, it will take much more time. It will be much more difficult. The second point that I wanted to say is that data policy is evolving, but still a lot of data are not yet open and freely available, and which make it difficult for their accessibility and reusability. And that way, it's showing them through marine data services helps them to help the people show that the data are very useful for application, different from those they have been designed to, this observing system. And this may, or should, I don't know, help to unlock access to this data. And this is something that we have been working a lot between Copernicus and EMODnet, is to show the people that it was worth making an effort to make them data available, because they can be reused and they can in other applications, and therefore they can be sustained on the longer term. And so we are also speaking of fair principles and making the data fair. But what is important to say is that there is no recipe to do this. There is not on-the-shelf method where you could be doing and making your data fair. So marine data services are in a way key to support the community in developing standards and developing methodology to make the data more easily accessible. And also can provide support to providers doing the work with them by integrating the data and making them available for a wider community. So it's a way to move towards open data, setting up services between providers and users.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, for your recommendation. And before passing the ground to Thierry, I would just like to remind you that the Slido is open for questions to the panelists. So, Thierry, I give you the ground.
Hello everybody. So I'm Thierry Schmidt. I'm coordinating EMODnet bathymetry. So I'll be a little bit speaking about our experience and in trying to reply to the role of marine data services in achieving the all Atlantic data space 2030. So yeah, one thing is large. I believe that large initiatives such as Copernicus Marine or EMODnet are really key in bringing together expertise and data and resources all together to generate synthetic product which are then delivered to the community. Through the data sharing, each data centers, for example, in the case of EMODnet bathymetry, are able to cross-validate their own data. They are able to share their good practices, harmonize their data, and document them. And I guess one of the main role of marine data services is probably also to bring the human perspective, the knowledge and the exchange in between experts within thematic community. Another aspect. When I speak about bathymetry, if you look a little bit about our product, it is mainly composed of I would say in situ acoustically measured data set. But in area where we don't have access to those data, we are also using estimation from other sources of information, and especially from satellite data. And we are basically in some ways exchanging our capabilities and our way of working in between communities. What I mean is, I would say the communities the community which is morely related to the measured data set versus the community which is also more based on the satellite information. So I guess the role here is also exchanging in between community. And I would say, as Marco Filippone was also introducing Seabed 2030, which is a global initiative, we've got also this role of working regionally, but with the main outcome of I would say generating a global product. The final point that I want to raise is about expression of the quality assessment of our product or the services that we are generating. I guess everybody's believe that expressing the quality of the information is key to the final usage. In the case of bathymetric data, we are merging more than, I would say, 300 years of history. So you can clearly understand that quality of the information may be variable. So working on associating quality product on our main thematic product is really also important, and that's probably an axis of progress. So I hope that I was clear enough, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Thierry, and yeah, thank you, Sylvie, for your input. It was really interesting to hear your idea about the all data set of 2030. And our last question will be directed to Angel Perez, and it's about how are the EU and other region marine data services evolving to enable marine data access and use for wider society. Angel Perez, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you. First, I wanted to mention that we already had a presentation that showed how large, important science programs in the South Atlantic or in Brazil particularly have been engaged with international initiatives such as EMODnet. But I guess from my perspective as a scientist that work in biodiversity and ecology, and marine areas, particularly the deep sea, my views are mostly related to this, the amount of data that's being collected and sit in the labs and many scientists and even from the industry that could be shared in this large Atlantic repositories. So I guess from the Southwest Atlantic perspective, my view is that the marine scientists have historically focused in regional studies and share data regionally to achieve their scientific goals. Sharing regional data in an all-Atlantic database has been a more recent process amongst scientists and highly associated with opportunities to expand research goals from regional to ocean-based in scale, for example, through integration with international cooperation programs and projects. For example, the Census of Marine Life, maybe 10 years ago, provided such opportunity in which many South American scientists working with marine biodiversity began to see the value of sharing the data on the OBIS platform in order to address global ocean questions. In other words, scientists of different regions of the Atlantic would tend to engage more easily in the Atlantic database initiative if that is linked clearly with opportunities to participate in broad-scale scientific projects. Currently, there are the EU-funded H2020 projects that are linked to the All-Atlantic Alliance, so the Delaney statement, that have been an excellent example of opportunity at stimulating regional data sharing, and that's related to the fact that these scientists are associated in this large consortia to produce important scientific tasks that relate to the entire Atlantic integrated region. Yet sharing regional data is not only a matter of willing to share, but there are also technical issues that marine scientists from South Atlantic or other regions may not be readily prepared to overcome, which again pose difficulties to engage in an all-Atlantic initiative. In general, it would require some sort of training or support to prepare data within the required standards. About the industry data, engaging industry in such process seems to be crucial to fill in the data gaps in regions where scientific operations have been less frequent, such as the South Atlantic. But again, in our experience in Brazil, it becomes facilitated if it's linked to programs that can provide clear benefits for the industry. Oil and gas industry and fisheries, for example, collect data to improve their own operations and also to meet demands of management and environmental licensing. In the first case, they may or may not want to share that information for commercial reasons, but environmental data is usually public and could be shared without restrictions. Still, the costs and effort to prepare and format data are not always available or represent difficulties for commercial operations. In that sense, engaging industry in regional marine data sharing would require first a sense of purpose in terms of benefits to the company and eventually support in data preparation, etc. We have had a successful case with Petrobras, a Brazilian oil and gas company, who saw an opportunity to share marine environmental data collected for licensing purposes in the past decades with Atlantic scientific community through the iAtlantic project. who in return provided support to format a large amount of data and also opportunities for Petrobras personnel to join scientific cruises and collect data they need for environmental assessments. Adding to that, Petrobras also saw an opportunity to show society by sharing their data that they're committed to sustainable development. So I guess that engaging science community in other regions and the Atlantic and diverse communities can be leveraged in common benefits if common benefits are made clear and technical support is somehow facilitated. Thank you.
Perfect. So, thank you, Jose. And I think it's time. We have time for one or two questions. Thank you, Vincent. So we have a couple of the first two ranked question. I don't know. Maybe somebody would like to give a feedback on the first one. CC maybe on how can marine data services extend marine environmental and human activities data for interoperability with the social science and wider domains? This is also the, for example, beyond the PARC principles and more broadened to CARE principle and ethics.
Okay, yes, but sorry, I cannot turn on my camera, but it's okay. It was okay before. So just a few words to answer to this question. Just let me say that we are not at the end so far. I mean, to be able to merge, to combine all measurements related to the marine environment and human activities and serve them as open data to the interested users. But we are making important steps toward that. For example, in EMODnet human activities, there is a lot of progress for compiling relevant data and provided services that give an insight into this. And EMODnet as a service beyond that offer this information together with additional environmental marine data that could support the user's need. So as I said before, we are not already there, but we are we are making, the marine oceanographic community has made important steps to do there and manage this issue. I don't know if it answered your question, but and also another one concerning if the data is free of charge. If I may, I can also say a few words of that. Let me say that from the data that we are, the marine data that we are managing so far into our services, the majority of them concern open and free data. Of course, there are some sensitive data that cannot be fully available to the public, such as some navigation, some bathymetric data, but we are also making good progress there, convincing people that it's important to share the data and offer the data to the public. We are also close there to serve as many as open and free data as possible. These were my 2 cents for that.
Thank you very much, Cici, for this detailed answer. I don't know, Othman, you would like to address the second question?
Yes, there's also a question about how EU and other regions marine data services evolving to enable marine data access and use for wider society, example, digital twin oceans. And I think probably Sylvie could answer this question.
Yeah, I think that we are somehow building the foundation that will allow to develop such a tool like digital twin. The same way as we are speaking now English, and I'm not speaking French, and you are not speaking Spanish or other languages, we need to standardize the data so that they can then be used by a wider community and be integrated in bigger services like the digital twin of the ocean. So I think that the marine data service that we are building and we are providing now will first serve with their product this big data initiative, and then we will be using them also to expand and to improve the services that we'll be developing on the products that are now available. But we should not go too fast. We need to build the foundation of the house before putting the roof on it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sylvie, and thank you for all the panelists for this interest and debate and discussions. Also, I wanted to thank the organizer for making this possible. It's a platform to share all the data and share all the information about data and data sharing. I will also leave the closing remarks to Antonio for this panel.
Thank you very much, everybody. And if there are just as reminding other small technical question, we will try to answer them offline. And thank you again. I hope the panel section give you a bit more insight in about data sharing and how data services are contributing to the data marine data space. And I will leave the ground to Olga for the closing remarks. Thank you again. And Olga, the ground is yours.
Hi. So as I mentioned before, when in my opening statement, I'm here to represent AANCHOR, and then our joint our work package was to do with the common standards for information and data sharing. And it's so inspiring to come here and see that among all these initiatives that are all the projects that are already going on, trying to get the data out, we also share common mission to get the data out from wherever they are, because we know as scientists, I know we have tons of data still that needs to be harvested and put somewhere that everybody can access. So it's a very inspiring to see that we all share the common objectives, which is that to get the data. And also it's important that how are we going to get to that final objective? Things that regional engagement is important. So this is really something that everybody who's involved in collecting data, by knowing that their regional data can be important in a basing sense or in a global sense, this is a way to engage everybody. When we started to do this work on AANCHOR, we were our first thoughts were, okay, let's try to engage the North and the South, connect the East and the West. And I think we are getting there. We are starting to talk. Okay, so like Sylvie just said, we cannot just speak our own language. We won't be able to communicate. So that's how it is so important to get the standards, the protocols, and everything in place, that it will make everybody that has a little set of data, and they can share with us and share with everybody. So that's how we're going to accomplish our objectives. And the other thing I think it's important, and I've seen this already, lots of initiatives, which is try to reuse the data, give the data a new way to look at it, and then we can get products and services that everybody can benefit, not just us scientists, but the society at large. The fishermen is gonna so they have a pollution. Where is the best place to go to fish, or the tourism? So every sector of the society can benefit from the data that we already have. And remember, we have decades of data. So this is such important information, because we already have some sense of the climate change. So this is something that everybody in the planet should be aware of. And we will have this product sometime in a finite time. We're going to have that. So this is something that we are working on, and I'm very happy to see that we are getting there. And the final thing is that we are talking about making the data more, democratizing data. So this is important. And also something that we have to change, that it's this lack of culture of data sharing. I already mentioned, but also create this new generation of people who are going to use the data, prepare the data, new scientists. So this is important. We cannot never forget that we still have to focus on education. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And Zoe, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So in fact, I believe that Zoe is no longer with us, unfortunately. So Laurence, Crosnier, and I will be making some closing remarks. I don't know, Nicolas Segebarth, if you're still online, if you would also like to make some concluding remarks, please just put your camera on so we can see. Laurence, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Kate. So I would like to first thank all the speakers that provided a very good overview of how the ocean data is important for the monitoring of the ocean climate. Ocean data is really a public good, and it really needs a lot of work actually for data sharing, because there is a lot of work which has already been done in order to provide with common standards and format in order to allow this data sharing, and this is only the beginning. There will be more work. There is already a lot of work being done through the EMODnet and the Copernicus Marine Service, and there will be some more work done in the future through the digital twin ocean. So this is only the beginning, as Olga was saying. So again, thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to DG MARE, to DG RTD, to the All Atlantic AANCHOR, and to all the speakers again. I might be missing to DG DFIS as well. And I'll leave the floor to you, Kate, and maybe all the speakers can turn on their camera on. I know that Anton has a problem with his camera, so we are not going to see his face, but if we could have a final picture of all the participants, that would be very nice. And we can also see Vincent, who was in the background, the technical coordination. Thank you, Vincent, for handling all the technical coordination.
So I will just add a few words, indeed, just echoing Laurence's thank you to everybody, both from the technical back end to all of the speakers and panelists, all the experts that we've pulled together. And the beauty of these online events is that we can have such diverse, we don't all have to travel, and we can all be joining together. I just wanted to mention that the main reason we decided to apply for this as a UN Ocean Decade satellite event is exactly to open that dialogue, because we wanted to show the state of the art in European marine data space between Copernicus and EMODnet, but of course to start expanding the dialogue with other regions. It's already happening. We have great European projects that are pan-Atlantic, like iAtlantic, that some of us are involved with, and many more. There's the All Atlantic Research Alliance, of course, in that context, which is why we're here today as well. And there's many other great initiatives worldwide, all under the UN Ocean Decade context. So I think this is a really great umbrella that we've kicked off the dialogue, and we look forward to more work through the All Atlantic Alliance and the global ocean data space as well. I just wanted to mention as well the questions. We didn't manage to go through all of those, but as I understand, the Slido will be processed by the speakers and panelists, answering more of your questions, and we'll produce a report for that and make the slides available where possible from the presentations. So yes, I think that only leaves to thank all of the organizers and those who supported this webinar, and all of you for joining us.
And we are able to finish on time. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.